Ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host Jeffrey Lazarus, and welcome back to Let's Play Dark Souls on the Gaming Vector. And as you can see, I'm starting off this episode by using a pair of Twin Humanities. Now, if you remember in the last episode, and I kind of wish you wouldn't remember the last episode, because that was some horrible gameplay in Sen's Fortress, but we made it to the bonfire after multiple attempts. Now we're actually going to revive to human and kindle this bonfire. And we're pretty much going to make our way directly to the boss from here. And once we defeat the boss, we'll do some cleanup around the fortress. So, from this bonfire, if you remember, we dropped here from the roof. And I don't want to waste too much time since I am in human form. We could have an invasion. We follow this walkway, and it will drop us back out on the steps after the last of the swinging axe bridges. So we'll head back up to the roof here, and we're going to make this fairly quick. Just going to run up pretty much all the staircases we can find. We're ignoring that item for now. I will grab this one on the way by, since it is right in our way. As you can see, there are fire bombs, giant fire bombs being thrown at us. And we need to avoid those at all cost until we can take out the source of those fire bombs. So just following these walkways, there is a Baldur Knight down there. However, there is nothing behind him, so there is literally no reason to go that direction. Instead, we will come over here to this room with these two cages. And we will continue on upwards, and you may be able to hear the sound of arrows. There is an archer up here, however, he is fairly easily avoided if you just keep moving. Which is exactly what we're going to do. You can see just there on the corner of the screen, the arrows flying by. And once we get up here, we'll be able to lock onto him and take him out fairly easily. Pillage his body, and we got a light crossbow. That's not bad. Now, through here, we can actually see the boss before we encounter him. That is the Iron Golem. We're not quite ready to fight him just yet. We're going to summon a little help in the form of an NPC. And this is one of the favorite NPCs of many players, Black Iron Tarkus, or simply Iron Tarkus. However, he does wear the Black Iron armor set, which you can pick up later on in the game. But we're going to summon him up before we go and fight the boss. Because A, he is very good for this boss, but B, we will also be able to take out the guy that is throwing those giant fire bombs, and he will not respawn. So by killing him, we will actually make traversing the upper part of the fortress a lot safer for ourselves. Just waiting for Tarkus to catch up here, because he's a great asset in fighting this guy as well. So you see we've got this giant up here. Now, most enemies I recommend locking onto. This guy, I don't know that I recommend locking onto him at all times. If you can stay on his side, you can cut his feet out from under him. And also you want to be careful of that stomp attack. There you can see Tarkus actually finished him off, which is fantastic. He lost a little bit of health, but that's quite alright. And we got a Titanite chunk for our troubles. Also, we can destroy all of these, although there's no reason to, except to maybe make yourself feel a little bit better about the whole situation. And from up here, we can get another look at our boss, the Iron Golem. So we are pretty much set to go and fight him right now. Let's head back down the stairs. We are sitting at 10,000 souls. I'd like to not lose that if possible. So I'm going to Estus up real quick. Now, when we head through this door, he's going to throw a shockwave attack at us. And he's going to do it almost immediately. So we're going to sprint up to the center platform. And then just duck off to the side. Be careful not to run off the edge. Now we're going to wait for him to come closer. And we're going to put Tarkus between us and the Iron Golem. Now, the Golem's not terribly difficult to take out on your own. But Tarkus makes the fight much, much easier. This is also one of the enemies that I don't necessarily recommend locking onto at all times, if you can help it. Just want to try and get on the opposite side of him from where Tarkus is and split his attention if at all possible. And we have run through our Great Chaos Fireballs, so let's use our regular Fireballs. Doing a lot more casting against this boss, simply because it makes more sense. Also, looks like we took a hit from the axe there. Now, the alternative method here, there's a couple of alternative methods. Number one, oh, wow, I just ate full damage from that axe hit. Luckily, Tarkus has grabbed his aggro again. But the other alternative methods are, A, you can get this guy to step off of a cliff and fall to his death, instantly ending the boss fight. B, if you're a heavy melee character and you bring Tarkus with you, you can do... Oh, I'm out of fireballs. Basically what was just about to happen there, which is you go after his knees and he will eventually drop down to one knee and then you can just hack away at him. So we get the core of an Iron Golem, humanity, and 40,000 souls. You may notice this ring of light has appeared. We're going to avoid that for the time being because now we're sitting pretty at 50,000 souls and we have some stuff to do before we actually head off to the next area, which is where that ring of light will take us. First things first, we need to make our way back towards the bonfire, although we're not going to go all the way to it just yet, because we don't necessarily want all the enemies respawning. Now, I am out of fireballs, so I won't be going after that Baronique Knight quite yet, until we have actually rested at the bonfire, simply because I like the extra security of having the magic when going up against him. What we are going to do is once again avoid this boulder, and we are going to jump from this broken bridge across to the tower. So we just want to run, and if possible, I was really close. If possible, you want to try and jump across this side of the bridge, because that is a little bit closer. Also, if you fall, the fall will not kill you, and it will actually drop you next to a sniper crossbow and some crossbow bolts, if you're interested in that. Now, in here, we are going to find our next merchant, the Crestfallen Merchant.
What? Who are you? Another undead, eh? I took on Sen's fortress alone, but I'm no different from those vile creatures. I was driven by conceit. You think you're different? That you can handle it? Yes, I remember that feeling, for I was the same. So, let me help you out, with your soul searching.
And as you'll see, this guy is an actual merchant. He sells black fire bombs, which can be somewhat useful. Green blossoms, which can be very useful, especially if you're playing a more heavily armored character and you need the stamina regen. Not entirely useless on a light armored character like the one we have, but I've already got 2 green blossoms, and I shouldn't need that many in the upcoming areas. He also sells Titanite shards, large Titanite shards, which are very important at this point, and green Titanite shards. He also sells a handful of weapons, the Tower Shield, the Balder Shield, the Great Axe, and the Great Sword. The Balder Shield and Tower Shield are both very good shields. The Great Axe and Great Sword I actually don't have any experience with. Balder Shield is fairly good for lightly armored characters, and it does have 100% physical damage reduction. He also sells a handful of standard arrows and crossbow bolts, if you are interested in those. He sells the Katarina armor. We actually missed the NPC who wears the Katarina armor, so I may have to go back and find him later so you guys can see him. He also sells the steel set, which is what he is wearing, I believe. He does also sell 2 rings, the Thunder Stone Plate and Spell Stone Plate ring. Simply boost your defense against that particular type of magic, or that particular type of damage. So I need to check something in my inventory before we purchase anything from this merchant. So we're just going to simply walk away from him so he'll quit talking. Bring up the wrong menu, very, very important. Our Uchigatana is +7, so in actuality, I don't believe I need to purchase anything from him because of all the large Titanite shards I have. With that being the case, I don't need any of his weapons, armor, or anything like that. So we're simply going to head downstairs to complete our next objective. Typically, I end up using the souls I got here, excuse me, to purchase Titanite shards, large Titanite shards, or green Titanite shards to upgrade my weapon before I leave for the next area, but I actually should have enough, I believe, to go ahead and upgrade that weapon. Down here at the bottom, we're going to find a very important item, as well as one of these spell-slinging man-serpents, who we can rather easily backstab, and then just combo into oblivion. And this will be the cage key. And this is going to make traveling back and forth through the fortress, which we will have to do, substantially easier. So we're just going to make our way back up the stairs. Don't need to two-hand my weapon for the time being. And once we get back up here, we're going to have to jump back across the bridge. Before I do that, I just want to check my inventory. I do have a variety of arrows. That is good. Seems I am missing a ring that I had actually meant to pick up, but that's okay. Just checking on my Titanite to make sure that I don't need any, and it doesn't appear that I do. So yeah, we are pretty good on our items, which means first things first, I'm going to make the jump back across the bridge. Or at least I'm going to attempt to. Ah, yes. And we are going to make our way... I'm actually heading the wrong direction. Am I heading the wrong direction? Yes, I am. Okay. So we're going to make our way back to the room that we saw with the two cages in it. And we are going to use the cage key. And this is an extremely important shortcut, because now we can hop in the cage, ride our way down, and when we ride this one up, it'll work much like the elevator from the Undead Parish, where, you know, one side will always be down, one will always be up. And this is actually the very first swinging axe bridge. So just slowly making my way through. You notice I'm ignoring the serpent because the axes will knock him off. Probably shouldn't have ignored the lightning one, though. And now, we're going to sprint straight through this room. These guys should aggro on us, follow us down the stairs, and hopefully we won't eat the giant arrows in the back. Okay, so they ate one of them, and now we can sprint all the way back to the bonfire, and if we can get there before the serpents are on us, we can reset the serpents back to their normal location. I don't know how far behind me they are, but we were able to rest at the bonfire, although it did look like he was coming through the door at that point in time. Now, we need to go and talk to Andre so that we can get a few items that I've been meaning to pick up and have just consistently forgotten about grabbing. So we will talk to Andre down here, and we are going to first purchase the weaponsmith box, the armorsmith box, and the repair box. So now we can do all of that at the bonfire. We have no need for arrows or weapons. We have no need for Titanite shards. What we are going to do is reinforce our Uchigatana up to +10, which is the highest we can go right now. So we will have a +10 Uchigatana going into the next area, which should be rather handy. Also, just looking at the spears. I don't think I'm going to reinforce the lightning spear. I may turn it into a different type of weapon. I do typically like using the spears, but since you can get the Uchigatana so early, I don't really feel the need to upgrade it right now. Also, you would think with the arrows I would want to upgrade the longbow. It would actually be a waste of resources because I'm not going to be using the bow that much. However, I may upgrade it later on. You would also think the same about the crest shield and about my armor, which I may actually end up reinforcing the armor I'm using because it is pretty much a set that I will probably use for the rest of the game. And we are also going to go ahead and repair all of our equipment before we leave. And now, with 43,000 souls, we are going to spend those to gain a few more levels before we head on into the next area. Also, that guy with the knight shield kind of scared the hell out of me there for a minute. So, sticking with our typical leveling of our vitality, endurance, and dexterity. And that puts us at 38, which is a little bit lower than I would like to be for the area we're going to, but we should get enough souls along the way to get us closer to where I would want to be. So now we have to make our way back through the fortress. However, we can take the cages up to the top. And I think what we will do is we will continue from the fortress into the next area until we reach the first bonfire there, which shouldn't be all that difficult. And then we will probably end the episode at that bonfire before moving on into my absolute favorite area of the game. Even though we will, I guess, technically already be in my favorite area of the game. Also, you want to keep your shield up when you jump into the cage, especially if you don't kill the serpent first. Not a huge deal, but it could result in your death if you're not careful. As you see, the cage will drop us back off up here. And, oh, actually, I totally forgot. We still have some unfinished business in the fortress before we leave. So we might actually just leave the fortress at the end of the episode. But what we're going to want to do is head back down these stairs. And we will go ahead and grab this item now that's a little safer. Large Soul of Brave Warrior, handy. And then we're going to head down this way and deal with... And there you can actually see the Undead Church, the rooftop where we fought the gargoyles. Which gives you a nice idea of the scope of the world. You can actually see all the places we've been to. Well, not all the places, but for the most part. So here we have our second ever Baronique Knight. Now, Iron Tarkus is also a Knight of Baronique. These were his, basically his comrades, his brothers in arms. And I just cooked him inside of his black iron armor. So there we are, large Titanite shard. Now probably going to be using my fire again for this next enemy. Because the next enemy we're going to find is going to be an actual named NPC. And this will be, I believe it is Prince Rickard. Yes. Prince Rickard of Astora. He was a prince, Knight of Astora. I think he's from Astora. I can't bloody remember. And I should probably just get in there and cut him down if he's just going to try and snipe me. Now, Rickard wears the Elite Knight armor. So he was probably... He probably at least knew Oscar, the guy who sent us on this mission. And you will also see... You saw it for a moment there while we were fighting him, and you'll see it as we pick it up. He wields a rapier. This is a special, kind of one-time rapier. It's the only place you can get it in the game, and it does have its own special moveset aside from the regular ones. So if you're interested in those kind of piercing and thrusting weapons, that might be worth looking into. Now here we get a Divine Blessing, and over in this chest we will find a Rare Ring of Sacrifice. Both somewhat useful items. I believe we've talked about the Divine Blessing before, but in case we haven't, let's take a look at it. The Divine Blessing fully restores HP and undoes irregularities. So, poison, toxin, all of that stuff, Divine Blessing takes care of it. There's only about 9 of those throughout the... I think there's 9. It might be 7. Throughout the entire game world. So you can get 2 of them off the start. And then if you want to have more than the regular amount, you have to do multiple playthroughs. They're a really great item because they just get rid of all status ailments. The problem is that they are so few and far between, so you have to be careful about using them. You'd rather have the specific item for the specific status ailment. Now, before we move on, we do have a couple of other things to do. So we're heading back down the outside of the fortress here just a little ways. And down here, we should find a couple of Baldur Knights. Remember, we fought them in the Undead Church. They're not near as intimidating as they were then. And there you can see it actually just auto-locked me on the second one, but I can't do anything about him right now. And he dropped a large Titanite shard. Really hoping one of them will drop their side sword, but I don't foresee that happening. So we're going to come down here, bring our shield up, step around the corner, aggro this guy, and if he's going to walk slow at me, then he can have some fireballs. Yeah, there you go, buddy. Come on. Nope, no sword drop for me. That the Baldur side shield that the merchant up in the top of the fortress sells is actually the same as the ones those guys are carrying. And there we get the Flame Stone Plate ring. So if you remember the 2 rings that he sold, which were Thunder and... Thunder and Sorcery, or Thunder and Spell, something of that nature. This is kind of the third counterpart to those. It's a decent item for specific, specific areas and specific encounters, but not necessarily something that you need to have at all times. Now, from here, do I need to rest at the bonfire? I don't think I do. I think I'll be alright. We're going to make our way back to the top of the fortress. We are going to finally leave Sen's Fortress, because there's not really much else here that I'm interested in. There is another set of armor, and I think that might be about it. But I will probably stick with what I have for the majority of the game. But in the meantime, we're going to make our way back to where we fought the golem. Be wary of sniper, that's a good message. And once we get there, we're going to get a short cutscene, and that will probably end this episode. And then in the next episode, we're going to advance through one of my favorite areas. As I said earlier, one of my favorite areas of the game. So, that being said, I have been your host, Jeffrey Lazarus. Enjoy the cutscene, and thank you for watching.